They laughed when my daughter said it at the family dinner. Every single person at that table laughed, except me. Only real moms deserve Mother's Day gifts, my daughter announced coldly, looking right past me. This year, my gift goes to the woman I wish was my real mom, Dad's wife. I smiled. I didn't argue, I didn't cry, I just sat there while they laughed like I wasn't even in the room. But the next morning, I made a decision that changed everything. What happened shocked everyone who thought I'd just accept being erased from my own daughter's life while still paying all her bills. If you're here now, you probably love these kinds of stories. Drop a comment telling us where you're watching from, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Now let's get into what happened. My name is Catherine, and I've always thought of myself as someone who gives everything to make others happy. I worked as a high school English teacher for 23 years, the kind of job where you care for other people's children all day, then come home exhausted but keep going anyway. I carried that same mindset into motherhood. I believed that being there every single day, making meals, doing laundry, helping with homework, staying quiet when things got hard, made me a good mother. I raised my daughter Emma with this philosophy. Even after her father David remarried, even after our family changed in ways that confused and hurt me, I told myself that being steady mattered more than hearing thank you, that one day Emma would understand everything I'd sacrificed for her. I was wrong about that. David and I divorced when Emma was 12. It wasn't dramatic or ugly, just two people who'd grown apart after 15 years of marriage. We agreed on joint custody. I kept teaching. He moved on quickly. Within a year, he'd met Vanessa. She was 34, 12 years younger than him, 18 years younger than me. She worked in marketing, had perfectly styled hair, and knew how to make everything look effortless on social media. She was everything I wasn't: young, polished, fun. The kind of woman who threw themed birthday parties and posted aesthetic photos of family dinners. Emma loved her immediately. At first, I told myself it was natural. Girls that age crave that kind of attention. Vanessa had time to focus on being fun because she wasn't exhausted from working full-time and managing a household alone. I kept paying for Emma's phone, her car insurance, her credit card for emergencies that somehow happened every month, her college application fees, her SAT prep courses. I told myself this was what good mothers do. They provide, they support, they stay quiet about the cost. But somewhere along the way, my providing became invisible, expected, something Emma only noticed when it stopped. That evening, I arrived at David's house for the family dinner, feeling nervous but hopeful. The house smelled like fresh bread and expensive candles, the kind Vanessa bought from boutique shops and posted about online. Everyone was already seated: Emma, David, Vanessa, David's brother and his wife, Vanessa's sister. The dining room buzzed with conversation that felt performative, like everyone was auditioning for Vanessa's next Instagram post. I saw how Emma looked past me when I arrived, how her smile was reserved for everyone else, but I found my seat and sat down, back straight, telling myself that just being there mattered. I spent most of that dinner listening more than talking, nodding when people told stories I'd already heard, forcing myself to smile at jokes that weren't funny. Inside, I kept thinking about old memories, teaching Emma to braid her hair, staying up until midnight helping with her science fair project, quietly paying for dance lessons, summer camps, and college visits she never thanked me for. I wondered when those memories stopped mattering, when my role changed from mother to someone easily forgotten. Still, I passed dishes, made small talk, tried not to notice how easily Emma leaned toward Vanessa when she laughed, like that closeness had always been there. Then came dessert, and with it, the moment that changed everything. Someone mentioned Mother's Day coming up. The conversation naturally turned to gifts and plans. The room looked expectantly at Emma. She sat up straighter, her voice steady and cold in a way that seemed practiced. Only real moms deserve Mother's Day gifts, she said, her eyes flicking to me briefly before looking away. This year, my gift is only for the woman I wish was my real mom, Dad's wife. The words hung in the air, heavy and deliberate, like she wanted to make absolutely sure no one misunderstood who she meant. For a moment, I thought someone would say something, tell her that was inappropriate, make it less painful somehow. But nobody did. Instead, they laughed. Real laughter, not the uncomfortable kind. It washed over me like I wasn't even sitting there, like my chair was empty and my absence was already normal. I felt heat rise up my neck, embarrassment mixed with disbelief, but my face didn't change. I smiled, small and controlled, the same smile I used when parents complained about grades their children earned. I didn't ask her why, I didn't try to defend myself, I stayed quiet. Inside, though, everything was loud. I felt something break, not dramatically but cleanly, like a branch finally snapping after bending too long. I watched Vanessa accept the praise with a modest smile, watched David look proud, and I understood that nobody was waiting to see how I felt. Nobody cared if I was hurting. That understanding cut deeper than the cruel words themselves. I told myself that if they could laugh so easily, then my words would never change their minds. For once, staying quiet felt stronger than speaking up. I left soon after, saying I had to wake up early for work. Nobody tried to stop me. The drive home was quiet. My hands gripped the steering wheel as streetlights blurred past. I replayed her words over and over, not to torture myself, but to understand them. She didn't say them in anger. She said them like she genuinely meant it, like she'd been thinking it for a while. That's what hurt most. By the time I pulled into my driveway, I wasn't angry anymore. I was tired in a way that sleep couldn't fix. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, thinking about everything I'd given her. The car I bought her when she turned 18, the phone bill I paid every month without asking for reimbursement, the credit card connected to my bank account just in case, the insurance, the gas money, the college fund I'd been building since she was born. I'd told myself all of this was love, that helping was my job as a mother. But lying there in the dark, her words echoing in my mind, I started seeing things differently. I'd given her everything, and in doing so, I'd let her forget about me without consequence. My kindness had enabled her to erase me without guilt. That thought didn't make me bitter. It made me clear. By morning, the house felt different, like it belonged to someone who'd finally made an important decision. I made tea, sat at my kitchen table, and looked at my phone without fear. I wasn't rehearsing arguments or imagining tearful apologies anymore. I wasn't planning a dramatic confrontation. I knew with unexpected calm that I wouldn't fight her with words at all. I would show her with actions. And as the sun came up, I understood that the silence I'd chosen at that dinner table wasn't weakness. It was the moment I stopped letting people walk over me and started reclaiming my life. I woke up with the heaviness of the previous night sitting on my chest, but it wasn't crushing, it was steadying. The house was quiet in a way that felt respectful, like it knew something had changed. I moved slowly through my morning routine, every action deliberate, every thought strangely clear. For the first time in years, I wasn't waking up with that automatic urge to fix something for someone else. I wasn't checking my phone to see if Emma needed money, help, or comfort. I sat at the kitchen table with my tea and let the silence remain. Memories came, one after another, not in a messy rush, but like files pulled neatly from a cabinet. I remembered buying her that car, telling myself it was to help her gain independence. I remembered paying for insurance, giving her a credit card for emergencies, quietly covering expenses she never acknowledged. Each memory carried the same justification. That's what good mothers do. But that morning, those words felt hollow. I understood how often I'd believed suffering equaled loving. how rarely I'd asked whether what I was doing was actually appreciated or just expected. I thought about the look on her face at dinner, the practiced coldness, the ease with which she dismissed me. It hurt, yes, but it also clarified something I'd been avoiding. She didn't see my help as care. She saw it as something that was simply always there, like water from a tap or electricity from a switch, something you only notice when it stops working. Sitting there alone, I finally accepted that continuing to give without being respected wasn't noble. It was letting myself disappear while calling it love. I picked up my phone and paused, not from fear, but from habit. For years, every choice involving Emma came with guilt before I could even think clearly. That guilt tried to return, whispering that I was being dramatic, that mothers are supposed to endure anything. I let it speak, then I pushed it away. I called the bank first. My voice was steady as I explained that I needed to remove an authorized user from my account. No anger, no bitterness, just facts, just boundaries. When I hung up, I sat back and exhaled, surprised by how normal I felt. No shaking hands, no regret. I wasn't punishing her. I was reclaiming something I'd slowly given away, my power to choose. Next came the car payments. I looked at the automatic withdrawal that left my account every month and canceled it. My finger hovered over the button for just a moment before I pressed it. I remembered how she'd once said, "It just makes things easier," when I asked if she still needed my help. Easier for who, I wondered now. Certainly not for the woman sitting alone, realizing she'd been funding her own erasure. Stopping those payments didn't feel like revenge. It felt like closing doors I should have shut years ago. As the morning progressed, I made more calls, stopped automatic payments, moved bills back to her name where they belonged. Each step brought a strange mix of sadness and relief. I wasn't pretending this didn't hurt. It did. But pain with purpose felt different than pain I'd simply accepted without protest. Around lunchtime, I met an old friend for coffee, someone who'd known me long before motherhood consumed my identity. When I told her what happened, she didn't interrupt or try to minimize it. She listened, nodded, and finally said, "You've been paying an emotional tax for years, and nobody noticed because it benefited them." Her words didn't erase my pain, but they validated it. Sometimes you need someone outside your family to tell you you're not being cruel, you're finally being fair to yourself. The call came later than I expected. Early evening, when the day had settled into that quiet time where thoughts grow louder. I'd been sitting in the living room, lights dim, TV on but muted. When my phone lit up with Emma's name, I didn't feel that spike of anxiety I used to feel. Instead, I felt calm, like seeing a storm you'd already prepared for. I let it ring twice, not to be petty, but to remind myself I didn't have to jump anymore. Then I answered. Her voice hit immediately, sharp, demanding, no hello or how are you. She didn't ask if I was okay or why things had changed. She went straight to accusations, telling me I had no right to mess with her life, no authority to make decisions that affected her comfort. As she spoke, her words came fast and tangled, anger mixed with disbelief. I listened without interrupting, noticing how she kept saying, "Mine, my car, my money, my card," like those things had always belonged to her. While she talked, my mind wandered. I noticed how steady my breathing was, how relaxed my shoulders felt. In the past, conversations like this would have sent me scrambling to apologize, to explain myself in circles just to keep the peace. This time, I felt like an observer, watching years of entitlement spill out in real time. It wasn't satisfying, it was enlightening. This was the attitude I'd helped create by never saying no. When she finally paused to breathe, I spoke calmly, almost gently. I told her that everything I'd done that morning was my right, that none of it was impulsive or thoughtless. That seemed to make her angrier. She accused me of being spiteful, of trying to embarrass her, of punishing her over one comment. hearing her minimize that dinner moment, reducing years of dismissal to a single throwaway remark, made something inside me harden. It wasn't one comment, it was years distilled into a single sentence. She kept talking over me, saying I was overreacting, that I was supposed to be the bigger person. That phrase had followed me my whole adult life, usually as a polite way of asking me to accept less than I deserved. I waited until there was a break in her words. Then I laughed. Not loudly or cruelly, just a short, honest laugh that surprised both of us. There was heavy silence on the line after that. I told her, still calm, that if she believed only real moms deserved gifts, then she should also believe that real moms weren't required to fund the lives of people who showed them no respect. I repeated her own words back to her slowly, so there was no room for misunderstanding. Then I said the sentence I'd been holding since morning, the one that felt like a door closing and opening simultaneously. Go to your stepmom for everything you think I owe you. Bills, car payments, help, all of it. Her reaction was immediate and explosive. She shouted that I was being unfair, that I was trying to abandon her, that I was acting like a stranger. The irony of that accusation almost made me smile. I thought about how invisible I'd felt the night before, sitting at a table where my presence was treated like an inconvenience. I told her quietly that I wasn't abandoning her. I was establishing boundaries, and for the first time, I didn't soften the message to protect her feelings. She demanded that I fix it, demanded to know when, demanded apologies. Each demand fell flat, drained of power by the simple fact that I no longer felt responsible for meeting it. I explained that she had time to figure things out, that I wasn't throwing her into the street overnight, but that my role as her financial safety net was over. I could hear her scrambling then, fear creeping into the anger. For a brief moment, something inside me twisted. Not regret, sadness. Sadness for the relationship I'd hoped we could have. Instead of reflecting, she blamed me for choosing money over family, for being petty, for letting my pride ruin everything. I let her speak until her voice cracked. Then I told her something I'd never said aloud before. Pride isn't what's driving me. Self-respect is. I spent years making your life comfortable while quietly accepting no respect in return. I won't do it anymore. I'm not cutting you out of my life, but I'm cutting out the version of myself that believed love meant endless tolerance. There was a long silence after that, the kind that stretches until you can almost hear the other person thinking. When she finally spoke again, her tone had changed. Not softer, exactly, but uncertain. "I can't believe you do this to me," she said. "I can't believe it took me this long." That answer ended the conversation more effectively than any raised voice could have. She hung up shortly after. No goodbye. I sat there with the phone still in my hand, looking at the dark screen. I expected to feel something dramatic, relief, victory, devastation, but what I felt was quiet, a deep, settling quiet that told me I'd crossed a line I couldn't uncross, and I was okay with that. The next few days were strange. Emma called twice more. Both times her tone oscillated between anger and pleading. She tried different approaches, accusing me of abandonment, then pivoting to guilt trips about how hard her life was, then circling back to indignation about my cruelty. Each time I listened, and each time I calmly repeated the same message. She was an adult, and adults handle their own responsibilities. On the third day, David called. "Catherine, what's going on?" His voice carried that familiar mix of confusion and mild irritation. "Emma says you cut her off financially. That can't be right." "It's completely right," I said. "But why? What happened?" I paused, considering whether to explain. Then I decided he deserved the truth, not for his sake, but for mine. "At the family dinner last week, your daughter announced to everyone that only real moms deserve Mother's Day gifts, that her gift this year was going to Vanessa because she wished Vanessa was her real mother. Everyone laughed, including you. Silence on the other end. Catherine, she's a kid. She didn't mean. She's 20 years old, David, and she meant it. But here's the thing. I'm not angry about what she said. I'm done subsidizing a life for someone who's made it clear I don't matter. You're being dramatic. Am I? I've been paying for her car, her insurance, her phone, her credit card, her emergencies, all while working full-time as a teacher. And in return, I get dismissed at family dinners while everyone celebrates the woman who does none of the work but gets all the credit. Vanessa's been good to her. I'm not debating Vanessa's merit, David. I'm stating facts. If Emma thinks Vanessa is the mother she deserves, then Vanessa can assume the financial responsibilities too. Another pause. Then, you're really doing this. I really am. Emma's struggling. She can't afford. Then maybe it's time she learned what things actually cost. Or maybe you and Vanessa can help her. That I'm done being invisible while still being expected to pay for everything. I hung up before he could respond. 2 days later, Vanessa sent me a text. It was long, carefully worded, and dripping with condescension. Catherine, I know you're hurting, but taking it out on Emma isn't the answer. She's young and sometimes says things she doesn't mean. As women, we should support each other, not tear each other down. Emma needs both of us. I hope you'll reconsider. I read it twice. Then I typed a response. Vanessa, Emma made it very clear who she considers her real mother. I'm simply respecting her wishes. If she needs support, she's lucky to have you. I'm sure you'll be happy to help with her car payment, insurance, phone bill, and credit card. Best wishes. I blocked her number after I sent it. 3 weeks passed. I heard through mutual friends that Emma had moved back in with David and Vanessa, that she'd had to get a part-time job to cover her expenses, that she was stressed and struggling. I felt a pang when I heard that. Not regret, but the natural sadness any mother feels when her child is having a hard time. But I didn't reach out. Then, on a Saturday morning, there was a knock at my door. I opened it to find Emma standing on my porch. She looked tired. Her hair wasn't styled. She wore sweatpants and an old hoodie. "Can I come in?" she asked quietly. I stepped aside without a word. We sat in the living room, the same room where I'd received her angry phone call weeks earlier. She didn't speak right away, just sat there, looking at her hands. Finally, I got a job at a coffee shop. It's only part-time, but it helps with bills. That's good, I said neutrally. Dad and Vanessa said they'd help, but she trailed off. Vanessa's job isn't as stable as everyone thought, and Dad says he can't afford to cover everything. I said nothing. I didn't realize, Emma continued, her voice small, how much you were doing. I thought it was normal, that all parents did that. Some do, I said, but at a certain point, adults need to support themselves. I know that now. She looked up at me then, and I saw something I hadn't seen in years, vulnerability. I'm sorry, she said, for what I said at dinner, for how I've treated you, for taking you for granted. I waited. I don't expect you to just forgive me, she added quickly, or to start paying for things again. I needed to say it. I took a deep breath. Emma, I appreciate your apology. I do. But you hurt me. Not just at that dinner, though that was the final straw. For years, I felt invisible, like I only mattered when you needed something. I didn't mean to make you feel that way. Maybe not, but you did, and the worst part is I let it happen. I kept giving and giving because I thought that's what love looked like. But love without respect isn't really love. It's just use. She flinched at that word. I'm not saying this to be cruel. I'm saying it because it's true. If we're going to have a relationship moving forward, it needs to be different. I need to be seen as a person, not just a resource. I understand, she said, tears in her eyes. I want that too. Do you? Because actions matter more than words, Emma. You can apologize all you want, but what matters is whether things actually change. They will, she promised. I swear. I wanted to believe her, but I'd learned the hard way that wanting something doesn't make it true. We'll see, I said. Right now, I need space. I need time to figure out what a relationship with you looks like that doesn't leave me feeling erased. She nodded, wiping her eyes. Okay, I understand. She stood to leave, then paused at the door. For what it's worth, you are a good mom. I took that for granted. After she left, I sat in the quiet house for a long time. I didn't feel victorious. I didn't feel vindicated. I felt like someone who'd finally stopped drowning and was learning, slowly, to breathe again. It's been 6 months since that dinner. 6 months since I made the hardest decision of my parenting life. Emma and I talk now, not as much as before, but more honestly. She still lives with her father. She still works at the coffee shop. She's learning to budget, to prioritize, to understand that nothing in life is free. And slowly, very slowly, she's learning to see me as a person, not just a resource. We had coffee last week. She paid for her own. That small gesture meant more to me than she'll probably ever understand. I'm not paying her bills anymore. I'm not her safety net, and that's been hard for both of us. But it's also been necessary, because I've finally learned what I should have known years ago. You can't love someone into respecting you. You can't sacrifice your way into being valued. Boundaries aren't punishments, they're statements. They say, this is where I end and you begin. This is what I will accept. This is what I won't. For years, I had no boundaries. I said yes to everything, gave everything, tolerated everything. And in doing so, I taught my daughter that I didn't matter. That lesson was my fault to teach and mine to unteach. If you're watching this and you see yourself in my story, here's what I want you to know. You are not obligated to keep giving to people who take you for granted, not even family, not even your children. Love should be mutual, respect should be expected. And if someone can laugh while you're being dismissed, they don't deserve your endless sacrifice. Set the boundary, feel the guilt, do it anyway. Because on the other side of that guilt is something better, self-respect. And that, I've learned, is worth more than being everyone's favorite doormat. Thank you for watching. Drop a comment telling me where you're from and whether you've ever had to set boundaries with family. I'd love to hear your story. Remember, you deserve to be valued, not just used. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself and for others is to finally say no.